Hi, Internet. As always, here's my Matchbox disclaimer. I'm not your attorney without a signed contract and with payment of my applicable fees. Today, I want to talk about when you retain an attorney, what actually happens legally and procedurally. So, if you meet with a lawyer and you end up wanting to hire them, you enter into a contract between you and that law firm or lawyer, and you pay them a fee, whether it's a retainer fee that's in trust or a non-refundable flat fee, whatever it is, but you pay the money. And the contract should outline the amount of the required retainer. It should tell you what's covered in terms of like what are the attorney's fees? What's the attorney's rate? Do they have paralegals? And if they do, what is their paralegal rate? My contract talks about if I have to hire other professionals or other attorneys, depending on the size of the case, and what those expected costs are. The attorney-client contract should also say if you're doing an hourly rate, it needs to specifically list the rates out, and it should list whether or not your retainer needs to be replenished every month, or if it gets down to a certain amount, it needs to be replenished. I do flat fee schedule contracts too, and any lawyer that does those, you should have a clear understanding, and the contract should be clear on what the initial retainer covers and then what the subsequent schedule is. So for example, sorry, I'm itching my face. For example, if I have a case, the initial retainer may cover a certain amount of conferences in the beginning and like filing and getting together original pleadings or responding to original pleadings. And then there may be a separate charge if we have to go to mediation or if we have to go to a temporary hearing or if we have to go to final trial. My hourly contracts don't have that because that's why I prefer a flat fee, because at least gives the client an idea of what the expenses are. But, my flat fee contracts are very clear as to like what is covered and what the length of the case should be. And all of that should be in your attorney contract so that you understand what you are paying for. But here's the real thing that I want to talk to you about. Once you have hired a lawyer and signed a contract, if your lawyer is doing the work that is outlined in the contract, so I'll use an example of like what I do, right? If somebody hires me to file a complaint for divorce, and I file the complaint for divorce, and if there's a court hearing and I go to the court hearing and I represent them, whether or not I am able to get my client every single thing they're asking for from a judge is not what determines whether or not I've earned my fee. It's that I've done the work and gone to court. And, if we have to go for a final hearing and I've prepared witnesses in a trial, whether or not I've gotten every single thing that, I'm asking for, that's not what's determinative. And in case you're wondering why I'm saying this, because, plenty of attorneys will talk about, oh, I have a client and they don't want to pay me or they don't want to pay me for the work I'm doing. And I really feel like this video is for not the attorneys. This video is really for people who are looking at hiring attorneys. Because if your attorney has done the work that you've paid them for, it is very difficult to bring any kind of complaint to, every state kind of has different names for it. But like if your state, whether it's a bar complaint or a fee complaint, which is when you're saying like, oh, I don't want to pay this fee. If they've clearly outlined in their contract and they've done the work that they say they're going to do in the contract, you're going to have to pay them or they're going to stop working on your case. And I'm saying that because I think a lot of people really, truly just think that, if I don't get what I want or if I don't get everything that I want, right, that I can just later go to the bar or go to a fee arbitrator and say, well, I don't need to pay them because, I only got 2 out of the 3 houses that I was asking for. And I think that people have to really understand that when you are signing a contract with an attorney, that in and of itself is a legally binding contract. Just because they're working for you doesn't mean that their contract isn't enforceable. And I know in Georgia, that, when attorneys aren't paid, they can put a lien on your house, they can put a lien on your personal property. If you're getting a settlement in the divorce and there's a cash transfer, they can put a lien on that to get their fees paid. So, I think it's really important when you hire an attorney that you really truly are able to afford the attorney you're hiring, because that is probably, I don't have the statistics, but I would imagine as a practicing attorney, that is probably the biggest communication issue, or I should say miscommunication issue, between attorneys and clients, is where people will meet an attorney and they'll be like, wow, this attorney is so smart. I like their personality. I'm totally going to sign up. I want to pay them. And then the reality is they really can't afford the lawyer they've paid. And it's really not fair to the attorney or to the client. So I wanted to just point out some of those things to be looking out for, so that before you hire an attorney and before you sign a contract and before you pay them, you really truly evaluate whether or not it's a situation that you can manage financially. And if not, there are, gosh, I don't know, at least, I don't know, maybe 30,000 attorneys. And I'm talking about state of Georgia, right? So if you meet a lawyer and you cannot afford them or they're too expensive, there are plenty of other attorneys out there. So, keep on looking, do what you're comfortable with, and make sure that you understand what kind of a contract you're signing and get answers, before you enter it, because it is legally binding and it can have consequences on top of whatever litigation case you're in. So you don't really need that stress. Okay, it's a weird world out there. Stay safe.